This is the Huawei Y8s, and this is my unboxing and first impressions video. So this is the box of the Huawei Y8s. I have the 64 gigabytes of internal storage unit here with 4 gigs of RAM. So let's get straight into it. So you open the box, it opens quite smoothly. You get straight to the phone. This is the emerald green version, so we'll check out the specs of that later. The box also comes with a clear case, which is something I really appreciate. So you don't have to worry about trying to find the perfect case for the phone. It also comes with a 10-watt charger, quite standard. There is also a USB 2.1 cable here. Now, this is a bummer for me. I'd hope it would be a USB-C cable, but this is what it is. And the last thing in the box is the headphones. So very generic, but I appreciate their presence. So that's pretty much it for the insides of the box. So I've already set up the Huawei Y8s in order for us to save time, and let's quickly talk about the specifications. So it has a 6.5-inch Full HD display on the front, and as you can see, it has a notch with 2 cameras on it. So it has an 8-megapixel selfie cam and a 2-megapixel depth cam on the front. And on the back, it has 2 cameras as well. You have a 48-megapixel main camera and a 2-megapixel depth sensing camera as well with LED flash. There's also the fingerprint scanner on the back. Other than that, the CPU of this phone is the Kirin 710 based on the 12 nanometer architecture, and you have the Mali GPU, which is a G51 GPU. We're going to do a couple of benchmark tests to see how that fares for its respective class. Inside this phone, there is a 4000 milliamp battery, and that, given with the CPU and GPU, should give you about 1.5 to 2 days of battery life usage. But we'll get to test that in more depth later. So when it comes to the hardware, you have the volume up and down buttons on the right hand side, as well as the lock key here. The top is completely clean except for a microphone hole. The left side is very clean as well, except for the SIM tray, and this phone supports dual SIM as well as an SD card, which is nice. And on the bottom you have the USB 2 port, which is a bummer. As I said, I really would have hoped we'd move on to USB-C for all phones now, but unfortunately that's not the case. There's also a bottom firing speaker here and a 3.5mm headphone jack. From a design point of view, I actually really like how this phone feels in the hand. It feels quite solid, even though the edges are made out of plastic, but they're quite solid and the phone feels quite dense. The back is made out of plastic, which has this reflective material on it. It looks premium, but it doesn't feel very premium. And I also don't like the fact that it catches fingerprints like crazy. I actually have cats in my apartment, and trying to get this phone to be completely clean for the video is almost impossible. Other than that, you also have a slight camera bump on the back, meaning that if you place the phone on a table, it's gonna be wiggling, as you can see. The hardware buttons are quite clicky, so that's something I like and something that I really appreciate. Accessing the phone with the fingerprint scanner is also quite decently fast. It's quite fast for this class of device and quite reliable, so I actually like that. Other than the rear-mounted fingerprint scanner, you can also unlock the phone with your face, so that's quite nice. Even though I'm not a fan of having this double notch, as it takes a bit away from the viewing experience, I actually really like the display. It has quite good colors, the resolution is quite good, and keep in mind this is an LCD display. The display also gets quite bright, and the contrast levels seem quite good for this class of device, so I'm quite happy overall with this display. Of course, when it comes to trying to use this phone with one hand, it is a bit of a struggle, to be honest. There is no slide down the notification bar with your fingerprint scanner, and you can't do it from the display, so you do have to stretch all the way to the top in order to reach it, which might be a bit of a hassle for some people. Nokia added the hardware buttons just for convenience. The Nokia N9's hardware made perfect sense, and Nokia's So the speakers on this phone are actually quite decent. They're not super loud, but they are quite clear. So I would say it's about a B from my quick impressions just now. Let's quickly talk about the software. This phone is running on EMUI 9.1 on top of Android 9, and it's a very Huawei-ish skin. It tries to mimic the iPhone in the way the icons are shaped and the fact that you don't have an application drawer on by default. I'm not a huge fan of this UI, to be honest, but it's quite usable and I don't think there are a lot of issues with it. When it comes to speed, the phone is actually quite fast, as you can see. So performance-wise, I don't think there are any issues or anything to worry about with this chipset. But we're gonna get into more testing and we're gonna see if this phone is capable of playing games on a good level. I also noticed something quite interesting, which is the fact that the phone will be able to adjust the resolution of the display based on the power consumption. So when you're trying to save some battery life, the phone will automatically switch to a slightly lower resolution, which is a 720p resolution, in order to save power. That's quite smart. There's also an eye comfort mode, which plays around with the blue light filter. So it makes the display a bit more yellowish, brownish, which makes your life a bit easier when you're trying to read text at night. Other than that, when it comes to connectivity, it has Bluetooth 4.2 on this, not 5.0. You might also be wondering if this phone has Google services on it, and I'm happy to report that it actually does come with the Play Store pre-installed. So you can download all your favorite apps from Google, which is nice. It's a bit weird for me and a bit unclear on which phones come with this Play Store capability and which phones don't. Like why are the Huawei flagships not coming with the Play Store and this budget-oriented device coming with all the Google services? It remains a bit of a mystery for me. So, as I said, I'm not a big fan of EMUI, but it is full of options, so you get a lot of options to play around with and a lot of settings to temper around with, which is nice if you're looking to fully customize your phone. It's better than stock Android for sure. My issues with it are mainly about the design choices here. I don't like the way the icons look. They look a bit outdated for this time and age, but that's a very minor issue and it's a very subjective issue. You might like the way it looks, so good for you if you do. You can add an app drawer to the home screen if you're not happy with the way it does things, which is similar to iOS. So you can add the app drawer, and it's taking its time, but here it is. So you have the home screen button, the app drawer button here in the center, so it becomes like a more traditional Android experience. A big question for me is, why does this phone come with Android 9 out of the box? I mean, it should come with Android 10. It's been released in late May in 2020, so ideally it should come with Android 10, but unfortunately it doesn't. So let's quickly test out the 48 megapixel camera to see what kind of impression it leaves. And we're gonna take a picture of this baby Camaro. Okay, let's have a look. To be honest, the result is actually not bad at all. It's quite a good picture. The contrast is quite nice. The colors are quite punchy. The details are quite solid. Yeah, so camera seems like a good option in this price range. So the other camera that it has is a depth sensor. So you won't be able to use it to capture pictures, but it will help when you're trying to capture portrait mode pictures. So we can't really test it now, but I'll definitely do a proper test for it in the full review of this device. Let's try capturing something else. Let's try Zaki. Okay. Autofocus took its sweet time there, but quality-wise, have a look. Quite decent, so that's quite good. I'll get to test more in depth how well it does at night, in low light, and in different situations. So stay tuned for the full review. So that's it from me when it comes to the impressions video of the Y8s. What do you guys think about the smartphone? And is there anything you'd like me to cover in the full review? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.